Hey guys, it's me, Canden. I'm so happy that you're tuning in to another Celibacy and the Modern Christian Man interview. I got a chance to sit down with musician, videographer, and content extraordinaire, TUDOR Williams, who I have worked with before with BM Entertainment. And I was very excited to interview him. He was on the go when we did this, so I found out all that I could from him before he had to go to his gig. Here is the live interview with TUDOR. I hope you enjoy.
TUDOR!
Yo, how's
Hey,
it
what's
going?
poppin'?
I am in this wine store in Pasadena. They hired me. A buddy of mine couldn't make it, so I'm playing here for 5 hours. So I'm just setting up the PA as we speak.
Oh, okay. Well, of course, you're doing something very artistic right now. That sounds great. That sounds great on a Friday afternoon. You mentioned in your interview that it's been, several months or so since you've, interacted in that way. And so
Sure.
how do you feel like your life is a little bit better since then?
Well, I don't have, anytime I've had relationships with somebody and I haven't been married, it's always been something that's caused me to feel cognitive dissonance because I know I'm acting in a behavior that's inconsistent with what I know to be right and true. So it's definitely a one-way ticket to just feeling somewhat like distance from the person because I feel like we haven't actually done our best to uphold each other. So yeah, mostly sex has just been associated with a lot of guilt for me.
Got you. What's the best way that you can describe how you would feel if you got married, you were dating a woman for, a while, however long, and you guys were able to maintain your abstinence, and then it was your wedding night? What do you think you would feel?
I feel like not having sex on purpose builds a certain level of trust and mutual respect in the relationship because you're able to exercise discipline over your feelings and over your body's urges, and you're letting your will and your spirit kind of dictate. So that discipline I think is required even in marriage when you can have sex, because there are times when your partner's sick or you're working a lot or whatever. The circumstances don't cater toward you guys being able to have sex, and if you have the discipline to be like, well, I'm okay even if this doesn't happen, then you kind of protect the relationship from resentment or sort of unmet expectations and things like that.
Yeah,
so I don't really see any drawbacks to waiting to have sex other than not having sex. And
right.
the payoff, of course, is that you have a sex of a caliber that you just don't get when it's about pleasure. When it's about physical pleasure, it's very fleeting and ultimately unsatisfying because it's not the real deal. It's the difference between McDonald's, which you eat and tastes good and then you feel terrible about afterwards, and going and getting a premier all-vegetarian meat imitation burger from some bougie restaurant. You eat it and it tastes great and then you feel great afterwards. In fact, it's giving you energy, more life, taking it out of you. So I'm all about the celibacy.
Exactly. That's kind of cool. That's a cool analogy. How do you think we can be more proactive in presenting celibacy to the modern age in a positive way?
I think the most powerful message is not abstract, it's contextual. So it's like people sharing their stories that have done it. Because for some, it would seem, oh, that's impossible, because all they've known is the culture, and the culture is always telling us, if it feels good, do it. Like, live in this moment, be forever young, be reckless, be bold, and all these kind of things. And so hearing stories of people that have successfully managed that, or even unsuccessfully and then successfully, that might even be more compelling, because a lot of these people will be like, well, I'm not a virgin, so, it's kind of like, I've already lost that, so why bother trying to reclaim it? And so these stories would support people in getting back on the wagon instead of just saying, well, that's over, so I might as well just enjoy myself.
Mhm. Mhm. As a singer-songwriter, and being in the creative realm, doing a lot of video content creation and things like that, do you find that it's really that you encounter a lot of temptations with women that are kind of hard to overcome?
I think, yeah, being in entertainment, being in any kind of spotlight, being creative, all these things lend themselves to putting you in a position of influence. And the culture surrounding music, particularly rock and roll and things like that, has a sort of folklore promiscuity to it, right? Even my heroes like John Mayer and a lot of people that I've liked listening to growing up, people that have informed my sound, they were, to some extent bachelors, even in their, like John Mayer's 40 and he's still a bachelor, right? So I think that there is, you have to, at some point, you have to be more interested in the depth of a long-term relationship than in the short-term excitement of a bunch of little relationships. And so in my 20s, I think I was impatient and was quick to sort of date and get into these little relationships. And then I would have sex, and then all of a sudden I'd be dating someone that I knew I had no compatibility with, really. But because there was a bond, I was unwilling to go through the pain, so I'd procrastinate, and I'd stay in these things longer than I ever should have. And so now I just don't even, like at the first sign of, wow, this is probably not appropriate, I just tell them immediately. So I'm on the defensive now when it comes to these things, instead of being like, well, maybe something could work out. I'm like, probably won't work out, so let's not even go on date 2,
Yeah. Wisdom.
And like I write music to tell myself what to do in the circumstances where I'm going to be tempted. So I've written songs that are for that moment. They're like, I call them sobering songs. It's like, okay, that's right. Yeah. I know this temptation. I know it's behind this door.
Yeah.
Like after the initial rush and excitement, I know it comes after that, and I'm just going to bypass the excitement and the rush, and I'm going to just clip this now and keep moving on.
Yeah. No, that's good. Do you feel like you had a lot of positive influences growing up to abstain sexually?
I think I had one youth pastor who hadn't, and then he had, he became a Christian and then stopped having promiscuous sex. But I didn't have anybody like that I was really in a long-term relationship with that I looked up to in that manner.
All right, we're almost done. There's 2 more. So guys don't really talk about their celibacy. Why do you think that is?
Is it like it's not a topic that men really talk about, or you're saying men that have remained celibate, it's not something that they're proud of and shout about? Can you clarify?
I'm saying I don't hear a lot of guys in culture, in necessarily even in church. Yeah.
I think there's just not a lot of men that walk in real purity, and so if they do have an inclination that maybe they should, there's some shame that they don't want to talk through, they don't want to bring people into, or they just don't want to give up lusting or masturbating or being promiscuous. Like, they just don't want to give up that and be obedient. So they're like, well, I'm not going to talk about it. And like in the culture, celibacy isn't a value, right? Promiscuous pleasure is. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, lastly, and I'll let you go, thanks again, is you mentioned that, you had the help of an accountability team and even a 12-step program. Do you think that was especially helpful to you as far as the 12-step program and being able to confess to people? Do you think you would be able to maintain it if you had not had those things?
Yeah, I think lust and sex and like drugs is something that people tend to do alone. Like, sure, they might have other partners, but it's like an isolated part of their life. And if they want to have effective positive change, they got to bring people in that are a support system, that are accountability. And they just basically need to bring that part of their life to the surface and the light and let people see it and not try and keep it tucked away. And so for me, I got a buddy who calls me basically every day, and we talk at night, and he's always checking in. And so if I don't pick up for a couple days, he knows I'm up to no good because I'm ducking his calls, right? So I've got a short leash, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, cool. Okay, thanks so much, TUDOR. All the best on your performance night.
Thank you.
Hey, listeners. Thanks for tuning in to the Celibacy and the Modern Christian Man interview with TUDOR Rod Williams. I hope that you enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe and like and share the blog. And be sure also to follow us on IG at Modern Christian Man. This is Canden signing off.